Diddy, let's talk about it. Hi, my name's Rochelle and I'm an attorney. Even though I'm an attorney, I'm not your attorney, and this video is not legal advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. So today we're going to take a look at statements made by Diddy's attorney after his bail was denied not once but twice um, last week in the Southern District of New York. And so what I want to react to are the statements made by his attorney in support of his position that his client is innocent. So let's go to the video.
Wealthy, has access to planes and a lot of staff. Even though you said he turned over his passport to you months ago, they were also worried about him being able to interfere with witnesses and calling them. And so I guess the question is, how do you assure the court that that won't happen if prosecutors are saying this is someone who's attempted to bribe security staff and has already threatened and interfered with witnesses?
So I think the most important thing, even more important than the passport, is that Mr. Combs came to New York on September 5th. As soon as we realized that this indictment was going to be coming down in a matter of weeks, maybe months, but sometime soon, Mr. Combs got on a plane, left his home in Florida, flew to New York. I called the prosecutors myself. I said, Mr. Combs is in New York. Do you want to know where he is? If you want to know where he is, I'll tell you where he is, but he wants to surrender. He's here to surrender. They didn't want him to surrender because if he surrenders, they don't get to tell the judge that he's a flight risk and he's a danger.
Okay, so let's unpack that. First of all, the individual asks Diddy's attorney, whether or not his client poses a flight risk. And his response is that his client wanted to voluntarily surrender once he learned that he was going to be potentially charged and then arrested. I don't believe that the attorney is really answering the question that's being posed, which is about these allegations of violence and of witness intimidation. This statement really doesn't address the concerns, and I believe is ultimately why the judge did not grant Mr. Combs bail, is because his attorney's not addressing factual information that the prosecutors have presented to the court about weapons that Diddy has access to, and also evidence that he has been reaching out to witnesses in an effort to what they claim is harass them and or intimidate them. The attorney really isn't addressing what the questions being asked or the concern about these issues. Let's keep watching.
Because who, as a danger and a flight risk, would fly to New York and surrender? So they
him saying that his client is willing to surrender really doesn't address what they're saying the concern is. Even if you surrender, doesn't mean you're not violent, right? Both of those things can be true. You can attempt to surrender to appear to be complacent. Not complacent. You can surrender to appear to be forthcoming and honest, but it could be a ploy, right? When behind the scenes, what's being alleged is that you are attempting to intimidate witnesses. Let's keep watching.
They didn't want him to surrender.
So since September 5th, you had known, you expected it was likely he was going to formally face charges.
So I really knew he was formally going to face charges on March 25th, the day of the searches, when Homeland Security searched his Los Angeles home, his Miami home, and his airplane. I knew that day by looking at the search warrants. I've been doing this for a while. This is not my first or 100th rodeo, that this was going to come as a matter of time. What I realized in early September is that it was coming soon. And so it was time for Mr. Combs to come to New York, which he did. And let me just point out one very important thing. That the prosecutors are seizing on something that happened 8 years ago. This video that we've all seen, and it's a bad video for Mr. Combs, and he said so himself when he gave his apology. This is 8 years ago, and the prosecutors are talking about him bribing a hotel security worker. There was no criminal investigation. This was just a matter of personal embarrassment because he and the person in the video were in the midst of a 10-year relationship that was difficult at times, that was toxic at times, but it was mutually so. And this whole notion that Mr. Combs is forcing drugs on someone is just nonsensical, and it's going to prove to not be true.
Well, on that.
Okay. So his attorney, my opinion, is doing a great job at trying to narrow exactly what is at issue in this case. Because of the way that the prosecutors indicted this case, there really is not a lot of factual allegations to support what victims or what instances they're alleging are the criminal behavior at issue. So it's a great tactic by Diddy's attorney to really try to focus in both the audience and his interviewer on this video that he knows that everyone has seen, and that this is really all based upon that singular video and not some other behavior at large. Now, what he has not addressed are the allegations of kidnapping and of arson that are in the indictment, though there are not facts pled specifically to those instances, right? He's also not addressing, at least in this that portion of the interview, where the indictment alleges that there are workers who are being flown, commercial workers who are being flown into where Diddy and his companions may reside, who are being there for the purposes of engaging in adult activities and in party favors. He's not really addressing that. So let's keep watching.
Video, he initially denied the allegations when his then girlfriend, who was in that video, filed a lawsuit last fall. And we have that video. I should note CNN was the first outlet to exclusively report on it. He denied that happened when she filed it in a complaint. And then when the video came out is when he apologized for it.
So I wasn't his lawyer back then, so I don't, and I don't think he denied. I mean, I think the lawyers were the ones mostly making the denials. I think they were denying sex crimes. I mean, because at the end of the day, the gravamen of that civil complaint wasn't a misdemeanor assault, which is what you see on that video. Not minimizing it, but it's a misdemeanor assault. What the gravamen of the complaint was sex crimes, and he denied that, and he still does.
Well, and you're saying that this is all just about that one relationship, but when you read through the indictment, they say that there's not just one victim. They say there's multiple victims here today, and what I heard described was they said they have 50 witnesses or victims.
Yeah, I think it's 49 witnesses and one victim. I think if you broke it down, and I say that because count 2, which is the sex trafficking count, has victim number 1, and there is no victim number 2 anywhere in the indictment.
Okay, so this is a very good point that he's making, which I alluded to earlier, which is that the indictment really only includes one victim. Now, based upon the press conference given by the prosecutor last week, he indicated this is an ongoing investigation, and he provided where individuals who have more information about Diddy and the events that are alleged in the indictment to provide them with more information. Additionally, when the prosecutor was asked whether or not they were done indicting individuals in connection with the case, if there might be other co-conspirators who will be named at a later time, the prosecutor would not provide any information about that, which may be an indication that there is more to come in regards to what is being indicted, who is being indicted, and the individuals who are identified as either victims or witnesses in support of this case. Let's keep watching.
So you're saying that there are not other women, because what they were essentially arguing here is that he coerced and forced women into sex acts by using physical force, financial pressure, emotional abuse, and narcotics for what they described as these freak-off sessions. They saying that he self-described them as that.
Yeah, there's one victim in the indictment. That the charging document.
One victim does count, right?
No, of course, but I'm just not. It's not 50. I mean, what they did was a little too cute. Is it's 50 witnesses or victims? Well, it's one victim. That's all that's in the indictment.
Our reporter who was in the court.
Let's just note that he said that there's one victim in the indictment. So he's looking at what's in the indictment and not necessarily whether or not there's only one individual who claims to have been a victim of his client.
Today said that he appeared to have a stunned expression on his face. Was he surprised that he was arrested last night?
No, he definitely was not. I mean, I told him myself in early September, you are going to be arrested soon, and you're going to be charged with racketeering, and you're going to be charged with sex trafficking. So come to New York. It wasn't a long conversation. He agreed. So we knew this was coming, and in fact, we offered that he would turn himself in.
So if there are these witnesses and victims, and as you're saying that you believe it's one victim and 49 witnesses who saw this behavior, that's pretty powerful though to have that many people who have, if they go to court and argue that they witnessed this behavior by your client.
Well,
what's your defense against that?
So my defense is very well established. I interviewed myself the different men who were being brought sort of into Mr. Combs and this person's intimate situation. I've flown around the country. I've interviewed a large number of them. There's not the slightest inkling, according to the interviews that I've done, of anything that's coercive, non-consensual. Nobody was too drunk. Nobody was too high. These were adults in a relation. This is a 10-year relationship. You can't forget that. This is a 10-year relationship, and it was adults and consensual, and everybody who was there wanted to be there.
So Diddy's attorney is asserting the perfect argument, which is that, there was no trafficking, there was no coercion, everyone was an adult and was consenting. Now, there have been allegations by Little Rod in his civil complaint that there were underage people who were also a part of instances or that he witnessed. So it will be curious if in the future the prosecution amends the indictment to add allegations about underage people who may have also been a part of what's going on. Additionally, there has been video footage of that has resurfaced of Justin Bieber and of Usher talking about being under Diddy, being at his home, being close with him while they were minors. So it will be curious if there will be more information coming out specifically about those type of high profile people who may have been witnesses to some of this behavior that is alleged in the indictment.
So I feel very confident in my position.
You said you interviewed the men, but what about the women?
I haven't interviewed the woman's not available to me. She's presumably a grand jury witness, and we would not, we cannot try to interview a grand jury witness.
And you don't think that there are any other women who are going to say that they were coerced into this, given drugs, and essentially as prosecutors were saying that that's what kept them compliant?
So there are a lot of women in these civil cases. There's been a mountain of civil cases ever since the civil case that was filed in November. I don't see them as victims in the indictment. That's my point.
And so when you talk about that video of Cassie Ventura, that was his then girlfriend, in the video, I mean, just when you saw that, you said it's a bad video. It's pretty difficult to watch.
It is, no question. So let me tell you what happened.
Will that be used as evidence in court, do you think?
100%, 100%. So what I said in court today, and I'll say it again here, is the two of them were in a hotel. It was just the two of them in a hotel room. She found out that he was seeing someone else. She was going through his phone. She hit him in the head with his own phone, and then she walks into the hallway with two bags. One of the bags has all of his clothes taken from him, which is why he runs out in a towel. So this isn't her fleeing from one of these freak-offs. Why would she take his clothing? That's not what it is. And when the evidence comes out, this is going to be completely different than the government's portrayed it.
But on this video, and I just want to show that again now, how do you defend against allegations that he hit, kicked, and dragged women when he's on video hitting, kicking, and dragging a woman?
Sure, he's not charged with hitting, kicking, and dragging a woman. He's charged with sex trafficking, and he didn't traffic anybody.
But he's charged with a conspiracy here where he was using physical abuse, emotional abuse, financial pressure, as prosecutors allege, to keep these women in his fold. Maybe just Cassie Ventura, but keeping these women in the fold.
Cassie Ventura lived by herself. She had her own house. She had a family. She had a career. And he was seeing another woman at the time. He wasn't around a lot. She could have done whatever she wanted to do. All of these allegations of, I was forced, I was coerced, I had to stay, are nonsense. And
So I think that his attorney is really committing to his story that his client obviously didn't commit any of the things that have been alleged against him, but also trying to portray this video in a very specific way. And I think that, in my opinion, it's a mistake. And the reason why it's a mistake and why his attorney should just exercise the right to remain silent is because he's essentially blaming Cassie for what happened to her, right? He's saying that she was upset because she wasn't the only woman that Diddy was seeing. And, she got violent and she took his phone and she took his clothes. And as a result of that, that's why this attack ensued, is what he attempts to suggest. And that, she wasn't being a victim of any of the things that have been alleged in this indictment, but rather she was the aggressor and she set this whole thing in motion that led to Diddy, as we see on the video, attacking her, dragging her, punching her, and drawing her back to the hotel room. If what the attorney is saying is true, which is that, Diddy only left his hotel room to retrieve his clothing, if that statement is true, why would he also then drag Cassie by her hair in what appears to be back to his hotel room? All he would do is retrieve his clothing and go back to the room, and he wouldn't really be concerned about where Cassie goes or if Cassie decides to leave the hotel, right? But that's not what we observe on the video. And so I think that it's a mistake for him to attempt to characterize this situation in this way. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, because based upon what we see with our own eyes, right, it's inconsistent with what he's saying, and it really calls his credibility into question about the veracity of what he's setting forth about his client in this incident.
this can be proven to be so.
That video, in the indictment, it alleges that your client paid hotel staff $50,000 to make it disappear from the hotel surveillance system. Did he pay off the hotel staff?
Not that I know of. I know that's an allegation. I don't know that is true. What I was concerned about when I heard about this allegation is whether there was an allegation that there was some sort of law enforcement investigation pending, because then that would be a crime. But there was none. And so this is not a crime.
You said you're portraying this as adults who were at these events that wanted to be, I shouldn't even call them events, that's not certainly how anyone else would label it, but that they wanted to be there. But they also allege that they were recorded and essentially used as blackmail. Is that not true?
That's not true. That's not true.
How can you prove that when they have electronic evidence that, as they argue, over 90 cell phones, laptops, iCloud storage accounts, 30 electronic and storage devices, hard drives, thumb drives? Yeah. You're not worried about that?
No, because if they had it, they would have put it in the indictment. That's not in the indictment.
When it comes to your client...
So, again, I think that his attorney is overselling their position in regards to the evidence that the Southern District of New York has on his client. I think that he should be a little bit more judicious in terms of what his positions are going to be, and it's kind of unclear to me why he would even come on CNN to make these statements unsolicited, because, if I were the prosecution on the other side, I would, be that much more diligent in terms of proving that the things that are alleged in the indictment are in fact true. And I think that if there is video evidence, as the prosecutor suggests, then I think that information will come out, and it will be damaging to both, the attorney and Diddy, because just like the video with Cassie Ventura, they will be made out to be liars.
It's credibility. I think people will look at what he said last fall. And it's not just his attorneys. I mean, he pays those attorneys. They're speaking on his behalf. They're the ones calling her claims baseless and ridiculous. And when you read the indictment today, they line up with what she alleged in that lawsuit last fall.
If the claim is that he had unwanted sex with her, that claim is baseless. And it will be proven to be baseless when we have a trial.
I think that it's a little bit difficult for him to say that there was unwanted contact between his client and Cassie if what Cassie alleges is that there was unwanted contact. If she says that that's what happened, then that's what happened.
But the claim is obviously the conspiracy, the racketeering. It's much larger than just that, obviously, as you know.
It is, but the government wants it to be. But count 2, which is the sex trafficking count, relates to one person and one person alone. All of this talk of dozens of victims and 50 witnesses, if they had that, if they really had it, it would be in the indictment.
What prosecutors are arguing.
So we're going to continue to watch this trial as it unfolds. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.